septic system designs. Bob Sheehan is got 5 of them. And,
Yes.
John Kopinski did end up correcting his drawings. So if we go through what we've got for Bob, at 368 Bachelor Street is just a normal 2-component replacement, a septic tank and a D box. It must be a result of a Title V. And the action that I recommend that we approve that.
I agree.
Okay, the next is 378 East State Street. It's exactly the same thing. And I recommend that we approve that.
And I agree with you.
Okay, me too. 76 Amherst Street is the same thing again. And I recommend we approve that.
Okay, and I agree.
Okay, me too. The next one is 163 Bachelor Street. It is a repair, a complete system replacement. The fee is paid of $150. It is not an easy one. It ends up that the area they found is good and that it's deep sands, but the old system was right touching the wetlands. And what they did is they moved the system within 20 feet of the house, so they can't move any further away from the wetlands. They ended up using Bob ended up using leaching chambers to cut the footprint down to a minimum. And even doing that, they're ending up needing a new well on top of that. So what I suggest that we do is we have to do a 5 feet to 4 feet water table reduction with Neil Jackson as our rep. That the code calls for 50 feet on repairs from wetlands to the leach system, and all they could get is 41 feet. So they're looking for a variance for that, and then approve our own regulation, which we allow on repairs of the well to the septic tank of 100 feet down to 88 feet, but the leach field is beyond the 100 feet. So I would have suggest that we approve those 3 variances. And then the other is that we approve the application subject to Bob has already changed the design. He had 2 typo kind of things. He had forgotten the north arrow, and his deep hole, which was labeled number 1, was shown in the leach field, was actually number 2, and that was the good soil. Number 1 was lousy soil. So he had mislabeled it. So his drawings changed to that, so it's fixed. Also, I recommend that we require that in the past, if you don't complete the well installation before the system starts to go in, people tend not to do the well. And it's very important to get that well done because it's critical. And it would also be subject to conservation approval, commission approval, because it's closer to the wetland. But that would be my recommendation for that site.
So, Dick, how serious is the 50 to 41 feet from the wetlands?
It should not be serious at all, especially since the system that's probably been there for 20 or 30 years is about 10 feet. So it's the kind of thing that there is no other place to do it. I figured try to kick it around the house. There's no room on the other side of the house. And the front of the house is a problem. And it's a kind of thing that I think Conservation Commission is going to be tickled pink to get this thing moved.
What's the problem in the front of the house?
I don't think there's room to get the whole thing in.
Ah, I see.
Excuse me, this is Bob Sheehan. You are indeed correct. If you pull 20 feet off the house, you're right up against the front property line pretty much. So you can't get that.
Hmm.
So it's a problem lot, Herb, and it's in the case of the option, the other option that I would look at is a tight tank. And when you look at what the state is saying is they're saying avoid that essentially at any cost. And this allows us to use the variance procedure to avoid it.
Yes. And your comment about the well and the timing of the well, would you do that once more for me?
Sure. That when on these systems, when you've got a septic system plan that you've approved, that the well and that says that the well needs to be installed, people tend to not do the well if they're deciding to kind of not spend money. Then all of a sudden you end up with the septic system done with the well way too close, and the well is never addressed. But if you force the well to be done before the septic system can be done, then you know that part of this project gets done.
Now I understand your comment. Okay.
So those are my recommendations. So I'll do it again, Herb, so you know what we're doing. That we approve the 5 feet to 4 foot water table reduction variance.
Right.
We approve the 50 feet to 41 foot reduction from wetland separation. We approve our own 100 foot to 88 feet for the well to septic tank separation. We approve the application subject to changing the drawings for those two corrections. The requirement that the well gets installed before the start of the installation of the system, and that we get Conservation Commission approval.
That sounds good. Who monitors this this new well drilling? Is that Bob's issue?
No, that typically would end up back in our court. That would be Lee would have to locate it off of this design, and then the well guy would have to then report back to us.
I see. Okay.
So that's what we'll do if you agree.
I agree.
Lot 9, Chicopee Street is new construction, deep sands, no water table issues. But Bob's design is calling for the removal of the A and B horizon, so the topsoil and the subsoil. And when he does that, it ends up that some fill is required to replace it. So what we would end up, there's nothing for us to do except approve it, the application, subject to our fill restrictions, which just means that we have to inspect that hole before they bring the fill in.
Sounds good.
Okay, so that's done.
And that's something Lee again would do?
Yeah, when he's out there, when they do the strip, he would get called and he'd go out. As it turns out, where you were asking to do some field work, or
yes,
it seems like hooking up with Lee and getting a chance to get out there and look in holes and look at what systems look like when they're here. You've got a shot to look at a couple strips, and before systems are buried, it's a good look in the ground. You'd get a chance up here on these two last systems. They are leaching. Well, I called them leach pits. They're flows, but essentially they're the old leach pits that we talked about a couple weeks ago.
yes.
And you'd get a chance to see those. So this would be a great time to look at what actually goes into the ground.
Sounds good. I'll talk to Lee about it.
Okay. So that's it. Yours are all done.
Okay, thank you. On your permit stamp for 163 Bachelor, it should be noted conservation and plumbing. The plumbing has to be raised on that job as well.
Then
Okay.
I didn't catch that one.
That should be in one of the very first notes on the second page, Dick.
Okay,
But the plumbing does have to be raised.
okay, so Gene, that would be besides conservation, it would all be
Okay.
also plumbing.
All right, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Oh. Okay. Thank you very much,
Okay.
folks. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
You too, Bob.
John
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Kapinski of 12 Green Meadow Lane. We've got a complete, it's a repair with complete system replacement, $150. And we're nice sands with a water table. It is an elevated water table, but it's only 65 inches. We're ending up though with a bed. There's because there's a pump and a vent to let that air blow out of there. No ballast is needed because the water table is only 65 inches. No wetlands involved. The actions that we're required would be to approve a 5-foot to 4-foot water table separation variance. It turns out that John Kapinski is the Board of Health rep on this one, that Toretti was the soil evaluator. So the two evaluators were on site. Lee was there as well. Also, we would approve the application subject to, John did make all the changes that were needed. Some of the things that I questioned, I missed, and John showed me where they were on the drawings. But all the changes have been made. So we would approve it subject to getting the drawing. I've got, in fact, we all have the electronic drawing right now, but that John get the hard drawing in place, that we've got the fill restrictions and subject to electrical, the permit, our requirements, that because he's got the pump chamber. But he's got well separation and he squeezed everything in, and he dealt with all the issues that I had, and we're set with this one.
I liked all the little red clouds to read.
That was Dick's request. Sorry.
Yes,
Are you set with this, Herb?
I am.
Okay, so we're all set. John, you can go back to sleep.
So how many hard copies would you like?
Now, at this point, it's only the board of, now that we've gone through this, we need the 4 copies to get ready for this session.
Okay.
But once it's done, you only need 1 hard copy for our records.
That'll go out in tomorrow's mail.
Okay, so we're set with you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
You
You
too.
too.
Thank you.
So that's my part. I'm not sure, is Lee, are you on?
I am.
Okay. So our next item, actually, that's the end of our agenda items.
Appointments.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the appointments.
Yeah.
We certainly have some issues. One that it's a good time to just ask with the 3 of us is, Jean pointed out that I have a misunderstanding of what we're doing, but at least of what she's been doing for 7 years, is that on a component replacement. So if you're looking at, let's talk about 3 general components. Let's talk about a septic tank, a distribution box, and a leaching facility. Apparently, and when I looked at these 3 that Bob had today, I said, gee, there are 2 component projects here, so it should be $75 a component. And Jean pointed out that what the board has been doing, or she's been doing, and I'll just say the board has been doing, is saying that if it's a repair that doesn't require a perk test. So if it's a non-leaching facility repair, we've been saying that it doesn't matter if it's a tank and a D box, that we just call that a minor repair as compared with a component replacement. What do we want to do? And what Gene's, I know where Dean was coming from, or where we probably were coming from, is the double component doesn't require anybody to go out and do a perk test. It doesn't require anybody to go back out a second time, although typically you'd end up with a Title V followed with this thing, which would end up being 2 trips. But anyways, do we want to just continue with what Gene's been doing at the, looking at minor repairs versus more major repairs, or change it to what I thought we were doing? And I'm okay with either one. I really don't care.
Well, I guess from a financial angle, is the town, how do I say this? Is the town protected financially on the application fee if in fact 2 trips by one of us is needed for whatever the case may be?
Well, it just means that the only protection the town has is what we collect for a fee.
Well, and that's my point. Are we on the plus side on this arrangement? Us being the town.
If you got $35 for 2 inspections, that's $70, which covers, I guess, the $75 fee. Herb's got a whole other issue that he floated out there a couple days ago on the email world, but which is bigger than this one. But
Yeah.
I'm okay if we just leave. If you say Gene's got 7 years of precedent on this, and it covers the chance.
Well, let me ask Colleen. Do you remember what it was when you were here?
Yeah, I believe it was $75. Whether it was just the tank or the tank and the D box.
So it's longer than 7 years precedent.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the way it's been done. Whether it was correct or not, that's the way we always did it.
Okay. Are we in the loop with our surrounding neighborhood towns with this? Does anyone have any idea?
I don't. I would
I'm not sure.
offer that it's not worth the battle right now.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
How are you
We'll leave it
thinking,
where it
Herb?
is.
I would keep it easy.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Done.
so that's done. Now, Herb, why don't you tell us about your thoughts about what's going on here I don't know if it's just going to be a septic system things, but I've got a feeling there's going to be kind of a fancy review when you start looking at a couple of restaurants. Someone's going to be doing the same kind of thing that I'm doing with these permits. I'm spending a lot of time on permits.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean this to be making policy, and I'm not being obsequious about it, but this is, from my estimation, kind of crazy, the amount of time that's being put in by one of our board members, namely Bombardier, reviewing and detailing and responding and re-responding to all of these plans. Now, we could say that Lee and I would divide that up Except if we did that, Lee may be comfortable with that, but I wouldn't be, and I wouldn't be able to do a good job. So thinking about it and just looking at what's happening in town, it looks like there's new building going on everywhere. So this is all going to, if anything, get even hairier than it is now and more of a burden. So there's too much time being committed to this for $18 a week or whatever it is that the town pays us to do this for. I don't even know why we're paid, but this is crazy. So I think that we should have this literally franchised out to someone, to a capable engineer and reviewer of these sorts of plans who would do the kinds of reviews that Dick is spending hours and hours and hours pro bono. And I think if it takes that much time to review, then someone ought to be paid to do it, and it ought to be the people who are applying. So my thought is we ought to consider whether this should be jobbed out to capable people who could keep Dick and whomever from spending inordinate amounts of time doing these reviews. So I was musing about that and sent an email around. And that's my sense of it, that we ought to be collecting more for this and paying it to people who, in fact, are contracted to do it.
When I read your note, Herb, I've thought about it, and I said, you know, I ended up the same place you just went. Said one of the ways that we certainly could do it would be to say that there is going to be a application review fee or something that's different than the application, and whatever, we'd have to talk to someone, go talk to, and I don't know who it is, go talk to a Bill Shaheen, go talk to somebody that says, you know what, for whether it's a straight fee or whatever, that they would do that. And if you go and say, I don't mind, I would certainly lead, if you were going the way Herb is thinking or suggesting, I certainly could start with a call to a Shaheen. It would seem like it'd be nice. Of course, it's not going to work if someone ultimately turns into a Board of Health member, but then you deal with it. But
Yeah.
If you, and find out what he would be a fair thing if someone says, gee, it's $100. Obviously, some are easy and some are hard, and maybe we had a sliding scale or something. But to just explore, obviously you can't find. You don't want to choose one of the guys that's giving us the most trouble on not following Title V.
No.
No. But I have mentioned this a few times, I think, in the past, that if it wasn't for the inordinate amount of hours that you put in, Dick, I think you're the team leader here, putting in crazy number of hours per week into this position, which is, we're all eternally grateful for, but it's destroying your you have no time out. You work as many hours as I do, and probably as Herb did when he was teaching.
Yeah.
But at some point in time, whether because you get sick of it or whatever, yeah, we're heading to the point where what we put in for time compared to other towns becomes a point of humor when these other towns find out what we're doing for what we're not getting paid. And I'm not here for money. Truthfully, I'm not. Because if I was, I'd be in the wrong place. But everyone's putting in a lot of time, and nothing's coming back. And I totally agree with Herb's point. It's extremely valid. It's pertinent. And I agree. If some new engineer draws up some sloppy plans and it requires 6 or 7 hours of time to sort out phone calls, etc., then that engineer should be on the hook for the time in. I completely would support that.
Okay, you want me to try to call? I'll talk to Shaheen because I know Bill. Let's just see that. Let me give a first shot and I'll come back because in reality, we're doing the town a disservice because we've got 3 guys here that are not spring chickens. And at some point, we're gonna end up at one or more of, well, at some point, all of us are gonna be gone. But if we leave the town in a spot that there's no way to carry out this function, that's a disservice to the town. I'll give it, if you want, I'll let me give Bill a call and see what he thinks. I certainly was, not surprised, but when Kopinski called me back today with his design, and he says, you guys are nuts. He says, there's no other board that's doing what you guys are doing. And you ought to be dealing with it. So.
Now, why don't you expand on that a little bit? And the same thing Lee said. Are you suggesting that other towns don't do all this review? I mean, I'm totally naive. I have no idea. What is done by other towns?
Most towns have some kind of a health agent.
Yes.
And they're paying that agent to do this stuff.
Oh, so someone is paid in other towns.
Oh, absolutely. We're just doing the town a favor. We get we're doing the $35 inspections, which is also cheaper than other towns do. And when we did this, we said, gee, we'll do that because it allows us to be close to the people that we're serving. But when it's getting this technical, and Herb, you look at the hours you're spending on this stuff, on the COVID stuff.
Yeah. Well, all of us are spending a lot of time, and the amount of time that I see that you're spending is completely out of bounds from my perspective. So if other towns have a hired agent to do it, then we need a hired gun as well.
Okay, let me look into it and see if we can find some way to do it. Because if, again, you can end up with a hired agent that's not the greatest, and in fact, what I could do when we were looking for Colleen, remember I talked to Sharon, and Sharon says there's some organization that's in the Northampton or Amherst area that's contracting out all of the Board of Health services. So let me look and see what's available to us.
All right, that sounds good. Certainly Shaheen would be a good person to start with. He's been on the board. He's an engineer. He's going to have a lot of sense about that.
Yeah, and he's dealing with other towns. So I will do that. I will do that. So we'll do that. Then let's go through the timesheets. I've got Gene's timesheet with 48 hours. Are we set with that?
Yes.
I am
Yeah,
too.
thanks.
Okay. I've got, it looks like the bills, I've got two. Well, I've got two copies of the same thing, it looks like.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I may have run two copies of it. But it's a bill that's for plumbing inspection and inspection mileage of, so we've got 665 and 2950, so it's 694.80. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Looks like it.
Okay. I have also a purchasing request.
How many inspections is that, by the way?
Let me see what he's got. I have that sheet. It was 19 inspections at the rate of $35 and 74 miles at the rate of 40 cents. And I think we've got a list of those inspections, sir.
Yes, there were, and it's from July on.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
And he typically makes a big profit for the town, or his fees are well more than he spends out.
Bill, second.
The next,
What, Dick, before you go on, what is this interruption we keep getting on our audio?
I don't know who's getting it. It's not me.
It's not me.
Colleen, is it
No.
you?
Well, I'm upstairs. I'm in an upstairs room myself, so I don't,
Yeah, so if you can't hear it, it's not you.
I can't hear anything, but
I can
Okay.
hear it, but I'm by myself here, so.
Nancy, how about you? Oh,
I
Nancy's
can
got
hear.
us shut off.
Yeah,
Nancy's
I'm on mute.
muted, so it's not her. And Lee, is it you?
I have, there's nobody here tonight for a nice change, and
Okay.
the house is completely
So all
quiet.
I've got is I see Joe Shalou is on, but he's muted.
Okay.
Well,
I don't know.
let's
No.
see if we can.
can I, if I mute, I don't know, maybe it is, there is noise from the downstairs, but it's not very loud, but let me
Oh,
see.
this was pretty loud that I could hear.
Oh, I couldn't hear anything.
Okay, let's see if it comes back
Okay.
and we'll check it.
I have to jump out for a minute. I have to do a conservation, which hopefully won't take long. Then I'm gonna jump back in and hope it's still going on, guys. I apologize. It's just, I didn't know this was coming up tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
When it just
try to
so
get
we
back
don't, so it doesn't slip through, one of
Yep.
the well permits is for East Street and South Street. We should not allow that well permit.
Okay,
We should absolutely not, because that's one of the septic systems that's not going. The other, are you
East
still
and-
there, Lee?
Yes, I am.
Then let's do the Dollar General guys want to be drilling on Thursday. Before you leave, we should approve that.
All right,
That's
I'm gonna meet them on site.
And that is an approved public water supply by the state who's reviewed it. So it should be a legal public water supply. Okay,
Okay.
there's the noise again. Okay. So Lee is gone. Okay, so let's, on a purchasing thing, Herb, I had one more. It's a request for purchase, and I have it on my pile, and
okay, it's for a new computer chair floor mat. This one is falling apart in pieces.
well, I think you need a new one.
Yeah, I don't want Colleen to get caught in it and flip the chair, so I've been wanting to order it for a while, and I figured this year's a good time to do it because we have our regular funding. And then the larger brown envelopes, I don't know how much longer we're going to be doing the Zoom meetings. And as you can see, I recycle what is handed in to me, but you had approved it back in June, I think, but it was out of stock and they never sent it to me. So it's just basically to order them again.
Are you okay with this, Herb?
Yeah, it's 75.98.
Yeah.
It's, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
thank
we'll
you.
do that. That's set. There were, as long as you're talking about that, I did ask Jean and if Jean would get in touch with Chris. As long as we've got Colleen coming in here, it would be nice for the sake of whatever it is, $40, or I went looking in Amazon, they're $25 to $50 for a webcam that can just plug into the computer, that at least makes it so that someone that's sitting in our office doesn't end up needing to do what Jean is doing right now on these meetings. There are other meetings that we've been at that Jean's been on board, but you can't be part of the Zoom. What do you think, Herb? Do you think we ought to get that thing set up and spend whatever it is that we have to do to get her working?
Since everyone else in the world has these now, I think we ought to join up.
So, Jean, if you can do that, and
Okay,
let's get that in the works. And if they want us to pay it, if they give us grief, we'll just do it. We'll buy it, because all it does
okay,
is plugs into your computer in a USB slot, and your computer just activates it. So we really don't need assistance. We just have to plug it
okay.
in.
I mean, unless you allow Colleen to do it from home, she said she's got on her laptop, so that would be
That's
up
what
to
I'm doing
you.
now.
Yeah,
The only thing that there were times that we met during the day, especially when the state
true,
was
yes, okay,
doing it, and you couldn't do it. And it just
all right,
seems like it's an important
It's
tool.
such simple technology and readily
okay.
available. We ought to do it.
Yeah.
All right, I'll get in touch with Chris.
Herb, there's another thing that came up today that I was surprised. Colleen called me and in the afternoon, and I realized that what we're in is a spot that Colleen is working 35 hours a week, and Jean was working 24 hours a week. So Colleen's going to be working more hours, and the hours that she works are, I thought they're reasonably important to probably mesh with when people are in the building. And my concern when I talked to Colleen was having her in that building alone at the end of a day, if something happened from a safety standpoint. And that I didn't feel so concerned if Colleen was showing up at 8 o'clock and everybody else is showing up at 9 o'clock. But Colleen was going to give a shot at seeing when Kathy Kelly Regan is around, and to try to make some hours that I was concerned with safety. And I know Herb, you had talked about the board meeting in there because of safety.
Yes. I think you're making a good point, Dick. When do the last people usually vacate the building?
Usually 3, but Kathy really has a lot of hours, especially now with the election. But I mean, I'm glad to come in like 8 to 3 and then adjust, like my Friday hours according to if there's a meeting and it's 2 hours, on Friday, I'll take 2 hours off of that or whatever. But yeah, I'm up early anyway, and I think that's a good idea, maybe not to be, to be in there earlier rather than later, like Dick said. So that would be, fine if that's fine with you guys.
Yeah, why don't you look at it and see how works. It's only your first day, but
Yeah,
for sure, the safety aspect of this, we really, really should be serious about.
yeah. Mhm.
Um, So we have not done the well permit for 67 South Street, but we did do Dollar General. There is an issue that we should, a couple of them that we should go after. Some of these will have to wait, hopefully when Lee comes back shortly. But the other is down at the bottom. Herb, I asked Gene, part of our problem that we got into is last meeting, Joe Shalou sent in a kind of a complaint. And he said that his in fact, there's a letter that's in, but he felt that when I was brought up the subject of the gun club, that he thought that the way I handled it was ended up being an agenda item that wasn't on the agenda.
Mhm.
And I did send a note to Gene and copied Joe on it, that in reality, what I was trying to do was just report on an assignment that I have. That was the funding of of support for us, technical and legal support. So it wasn't a decision making and really a discussion item, just a report. And it turned out that we did have, which wasn't on the agenda, a letter that had complained about some 80 or 60 or 80 loads of material that was brought into the gun club. And so those two things, especially since since mail, yeah, see, I'm getting that noise again.
Yes, so am I.
I just opened the door. The guy for GCAM is here for the assessor's office, so I don't know if that's the noise you hear.
It could be,
Sounds like a door, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, the squeaking.
yeah. And it ends up that's another reason when you're on the phone like you are, Gene, you can't easily mute it.
Right.
But anyways, without having a category of mail or email, then it made it that we can't even talk about the fill very, very well. So what Gene has done, we'll have a standing item on mail and email, so we can at least talk about what we get from mail, which may be a surprise to us that we don't know at the 2 weeks after we have our previous meeting. And the other, you've asked to add COVID-19 as an item that we almost always have something to discuss. But as a result of what Joe said, I looked at it and I don't think that making a decision to get more information is in fact a decision. That's just saying we need more to make a decision. But rather than take a chance, since the two items that we said we were going to do would be to have Gene schedule the tour of the gun club. I asked Gene, since that was what we decided at that meeting, not to do it. And then mine was to contact Belchertown and proceed with going to see if they were interested in going after funds or funding both the legal and technical help that we needed. I said, gee, that was the other thing we decided at that meeting. Again, it's only to reach out and do more. I said, just in case that it should have been an agenda item. I didn't pursue it either, and I had sent a note out to everybody saying, do not do anything as a result of that meeting. So at this point, Herb, I suggest that this was on the agenda, and that we in fact do ask Gene to set up the tour of the site, and also that I do get authorization to move forward to see if Belchertown will work with us to do the technical and legal funding that we need to pursue the operation out there. Do you agree that we should do that, Herb?
I agree with both of those latter points. Yes.
Okay. So Gene, and Colleen, so that's at this meeting. So we didn't do anything as a result of the meeting before, and we just rediscussed it and came up with the same decision. So if you would talk to the club and see if we can find some time that the three board members can go out and look at what's going, especially where the placement of that fill, the placement and the type of fill. And then I'll deal with, I guess I'm going to start with the town manager in Belchertown. So that reaffirms our decision of the last meeting. And it's that one that we're,
Dick,
and-
let me add a point. We talked about mail and email. I think we have to add phone calls to that, because the board secretary receives phone calls, as Gene did, about the early mug complaint that I went out to look at. So we need to have mail, email, and phone calls.
oh, I support that. Gene, did you hear that?
I did.
So we just put the three things together. So that what it really is it's input into our board. External inputs is what it really is.
Yes.
So on the schools, which is on this, Herb, we know that, well, we can go back to COVID. Do you want to do COVID as long before we move out of there? Herb, you just said you went back to early mug.
Yes. I went back to early mug because of a phone complaint to Gene about problems in the bathroom with no soap and signs on the floor and flies in the restaurant. I called them and told them I was coming. And when I showed up, there was plenty of soap, signs were good, flies were absent. The restaurant looked okay to me. When I say okay, I mean okay. Lynn and I reviewed it before and passed it, and I guess I would pass it again.
Okay. Okay. We've got,
With respect to
go ahead.
with respect to COVID, I don't think we have a lot of things to say right now. We're fortunate to have not had new cases for a while, and it keeps our color coding in the nice gray area. But what I would say is that we are far from done with this, in my estimation.
Yeah.
And although we've been fortunate in the last few weeks, it would not be surprising to see additional cases crop up. We fortunately do not have Mount Holyoke or Amherst College or UMass Amherst within our borders. We don't have that kind of institution, which is going to potentially produce a lot of positive cases. But It only takes one gathering to spread a lot. We know that. So I say we keep our fingers crossed, but we're not done with this by a long shot.
With
fact-
that, I did have a phone call from someone that wants to have an outdoor gathering at a residence. She works for a florist. I think it's I Do Flowers or something like that. And they want to do a wreath making class. And she said that they will be having food, but it's going to be brought in by a company called Two Breeze in a Pod, where they can order, their lunch and they will deliver it. It's only an hour and a half event.
How many people, Jean?
Well, she said that they would go with whatever the state, I said, we follow the state guidelines. So it's outdoors and she's thinking the 50 people and they would follow all of the guidance. So I'm not sure what you think on that.
I know one thing that I would be thinking, Herb, I don't know about you, is to be saying something that's an hour and a half for that kind of thing. I wouldn't be doing any eating.
Yeah.
So that's an excellent point. Hour and a half to squeeze in a meal, it's going to kill 20 minutes by itself.
Mm-hmm.
And wreath making, that's hands-on stuff, so people are going to have to be demonstrating. So they're going to do this in a backyard. They're going to set up tables. They're going to set up tents. What are they going to do?
Yes. Well, they're going to set up tables. She didn't say anything about tents.
And when are they talking?
November 1st.
And it could be snowing. It could be freezing.
Exactly.
So would they then move inside the house?
That wasn't mentioned, but I don't know. With 50 people, I don't know where they would put them inside a house.
Yeah, I think we just need a little more detail from her about what she's going to do and what the intentions are, and
Okay.
how people are going to be distant.
Okay.
There is some interference here. Who is talking?
And I always tell people to follow me. I say, listen, I say everything's fine.
There's someone that sounds like a radio going on.
Then you're gonna file a lawsuit against the town.
Let me see if I can shut people.
With that scenario, hire a professional. Real simple.
Hang on. The next time I hear it, we'll see if I can shut. At this point, Herb, it's only you and me and Jean and Colleen and Lee that are on.
Yeah. Well, it's not me.
And I'm in a really quiet place.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me.
They're talking about legal things in towns. Is somehow another meeting, is it getting in here? Because we're being filmed. We're being recorded. Is it somehow coming in from our GCAM person?
I don't know. Now the GCAM is muted.
Well, then I guess that's not the case.
Huh. I'm trying to, I think I muted Lee. And I don't know how to unmute him. I think he can unmute himself. Because I've got a thing that says ask to unmute. but I don't see how to unmute him.
Yeah. I think you can do that somehow, Dick. But I'm not an expert with this, and I've never run one of these. But
Yeah,
so going up to the top, you must have a bunch of icons that you
I
can.
do. In fact, I've got them on the side of my screen.
Yeah.
And what happens is it says ask to unmute. And unfortunately, because he's on the phone, I don't know how he can he probably can hang up and call back in and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day.
See, I can still hear the
Yep.
feedback.
Yep. Well,
So it may have, in fact, be the Gcam. Maybe it is.
well, I suggest we move on.
Okay. So I'll do quickie with the schools is they did end up having a meeting that I wasn't there, where with the energy people and I guess the direction that Jay Joyce was headed, that said that the schools buying these filters was going to cost us our state grant. My understanding is the people at the state said absolutely not, that go ahead and get this done. The other is that the end of last week, I did get a note from Carol Hepworth that said that the engineers came in and looked at the trial filters that they had installed and that they were approving them and they're moving forward with that. My next item that I have is the Attorney General's Office Boy Scout discussion report. That's what I was going to do. And I did, in fact, have that meeting, and it went further than that. We saw that their determination came in and saying that we did not violate the open meeting law, but they did say that an item that we should have done, which we did not, is to have minutes. And they said, we suggest you do those immediately. Gene, I took a cut at the meeting minutes, and I noticed that when I distributed them for people to read, I saw that Herb also made some comments or some changes. And in fact, after that, I added another one that I had forgotten about. That was the last item that said I was instructed by the board to set up the follow-up meeting first thing with you on that Monday morning. I added that back in. So if you could, and I sent you a copy of that, if you guys could put that on our normal minutes.
I did. Yep,
and
I
send
did.
it
Do you want me to send it to you?
If you could send it out, just so we can do it, and at our next meeting, if you could just put
Okay.
it as an item to approve the minutes, we'll be okay. Is that the way you see it, Herb?
Yes, Gene, you got all of my in red changes?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm covering my phone. The assessor's office is here to have their meeting. So if you do, it's just starting. So if you do hear some from now on, it is them.
All right.
But I have you off a speaker. So
One thing you have to notice on my editing, I don't have the ability to cross things out. So I just delete them and write
okay,
in.
yes.
But
Yep.
you have to be
I did notice
careful.
that.
Yes. You have
Okay.
to be careful on my editing to read it completely to see where I've deleted
Okay.
area.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah.
So I'll have that for the next meeting.
Yeah, so then we can just approve it. I don't think it looks like, since it's a formality, but she was right. We should have done the minutes, and the open meeting law says we should have done it, and she was correct. But I will say, she was amazing. That I talked to her for about 20 minutes, and she captured things, not perfectly, but boy, close enough to perfect to say that's an amazing person in terms of how they listened and transposed or whatever she was doing with my notes, with her notes. So items left that we've got, they're really, unfortunately, with Lee muted, where we don't hear from him, and I can try one more to take a look at him and see if I can unmute him, but it still says ask to unmute.
Well, just tell him to, Lee, hang up and call back.
Yeah. So hopefully you can hear us, and he's gone. So I think he'll come back, and I won't mute him this time. That's the last time I mute anybody on a telephone call. So, because I think all we've got left is Lee's. We do have something on what we're going to do on the 2 restaurants. And it comes under, I guess, under mail, because both of them have sent something in, and both are kind of asking the same thing. That we told both of them that we wanted their engineering kind of reports, and they're coming back saying that's not what they're doing. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure, Herb. Do you want them? You know, the last session with American Legion was essentially a half an hour or a little more of going kind of in a circular talk of ours saying, this is what we want to do, what you have to do. And they saying, no, we're going to do something else. And I'm not anxious to spend another half hour doing that with both of these guys.
No, or with either of them. They wanted to be good old boys and participants in the town, and for us to just look the other way and let them do what they wanted. That was the gist of the conversation from my perspective.
Yeah. And I think we said what they should do, and my feeling on the last, one of the things that Gene sent out in the mail was like something special, asking us if they could do this with a septic system or that. And we're in a position, I think, Herb, that we say this is what you need to do, but they have to get the people to do it. We don't design septic systems.
Right.
And you know,
we certainly review them, but we don't design them.
Yeah. So, okay, so it looks like we're just going to stand and say they need to do what we told them to do. In terms of items that we have left, I think there were the reports. I just don't know anything about the third well was the one on 67 South Street. And I just don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I had given him the paperwork and the septic design for 65 South Street.
Oh, I know where that is. That's out in the middle of a field.
Yep, Eleanor Silsby's house.
Yeah, well, it's the one, the
Yep.
field next to it. It was
Right.
part of that property, and I think that was an Allen Weiss septic system design. And have we approved the design for that 67?
Yes, that was approved.
So they should be all set with looking at the design. That shouldn't be a problem, because the septic system is down the hill hundreds of feet away.
Mm-hmm.
So Lee should be fine with that. The rest of these are just token approval things. I guess we'll have to wait.
Okay.
Herb, do you have other things here?
I don't think so.
I guess then, Jean, do you have anything that we haven't covered yet?
No, it looks like everything was covered. I'll get more information about that wreath making party and get back to you on it.
Good.
This is Joe Shalhoub. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it all right if I say a few things or no?
You can have a couple minutes. It depends what you're here to talk about. Well, I can imagine, but if it's just that today isn't.
Well, go ahead and finish.
Okay, what I was going to say is our agenda tonight was in terms of the gun club, the Bowen Gun Club, looking at the consultant funding and the site inspection. Those were the items that were on the agenda. And if you're talking about that, you can have a couple minutes.
That would be it, yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure if you shared the full email and the attachment with the rest of the board about some suggestions when you do the site visit. Also, I had made a suggestion about if there are safety concerns and you can't afford the consultant, there's potential to engage with the building inspector on his interpretation of the current cease and desist about the expanded areas and the safety concerns relating to those. And number three, I'm not sure if you're aware, but according to the Minuteman Precision Rifle Range or the Rifle League, they have a shoot out there this weekend, and on past shoots, they have at least 40 shooters. So I'm not sure how they will, and they invited the public to attend. That's on their website. That's the 17th. I'm not sure how that would fall within the 50 people, but I think there's at least 40 shooters going to be out there on Saturday, not just club members. And that would be all I need to say at this point.
Okay, Gene, certainly.
I would say one more thing. If there's no other sources of funding, I would ask that you contact me as a representative for the group that signed the original complaint to see if we could do some level of funding ourselves on a donation to the town, or I don't know if any of that's legal or proper, but I don't know if you could explore that as well and not just give up on looking at this, because if the gun club doesn't come back for permits, because they use almost all of the full range now because of the way the cease and desist is viewed. If they don't come back for permits, you're not going to be able to get the peer review part that you talked about during the last meeting.
Well, let us give it a shot to see where we can go. Joe, we think that when we get after this, Herb and I have kicked it around, and I think Lee also, whether he was on the meeting exactly at that time, but we certainly could see spending in the range of $25,000 on this kind of thing. We would anticipate that it would end up looking at safe range design, and then so there'll be a good sized technical review, and then it would end up, I'm guessing Herb has said it, that there'll be legal, certainly a legal part of this, and who knows whether it ends up in Second Amendment rights, or I don't know where it goes, but I'm guessing that the first thing is to see if our plan, as you heard at the last meeting, which will be the same as we just said, is, since Chris Martin said he knows of no town or state funds that are available, that we would go and hope that by having two towns work together, maybe we could get a state rep to be looking in and saying, gee, there's two towns trying to work together to address this issue and see where we can go from there.
Right. And I think that the real problem is like one of the original documents I think I had sent him was the environmental police when Mr. Polchlepek called him out there. I think it was back in 2016 or 2017, before we even filed the complaints with the town. He had safety concerns about the placements, and the environmental police officer contacted state personnel, and there really is not any state laws regarding use of weapons other than being within, I think it's 300 or 500 feet of a residence, and or there's actually a prohibition against complaints for existing range. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. There's issues with prohibitions for noise, and although if you really went into that, you probably could look and say, well, they increased the scope so they're not protected. But that's the noise ones the board thought are they're going to be hard ones. They're going to be nuisance kind of things, and what we thought is the real issue is for us is protecting the health of the residents, and in reality, other than the woods that are close, when we saw this, the people that are the biggest risk are the people that are living downrange, and that would be the people in Belchertown, and so that's where we thought that our best route would be. If there were two towns trying to work on a problem, we might be able to get a lot further than trying to do this on our own.
Mr. Polchlepek works his wood lot every year, so he is out there. Even though he doesn't have a house out there, he is out there at any given time when they start shooting. Okay, so he's in direct risk. When I picked up those bullets, if those bullets had arrived there when I was there at my metal detector, I'd be dead right now.
Yeah.
I was off the guy's property on his property where he cuts wood.
Right.
Okay, so you guys need to be aware of that. And there was an existing, violation on the books and cease and desist that should address the use of all those expanded areas that are covered by those violations. For some reason, the building inspector has decided that it's only shooting position that's covered by the cease and desist.
Well, that
new
is
500.
We're making our commitment to move forward with this, but for sure, the guy that can do something about it immediately is the abutter that says I can't use my land, so this is a taking. And there's a civil issue right there that's totally in his control. But in our case, it's a bigger issue that we're going after, and that's where we're going to try to go.
Well, right, and I'm just saying, even if I have to raise an article at the next spring's town meeting to fund this review, I don't think Mr. Martin has the last say in what gets funded, don't get funded. I know right now that funds are tight statewide on all kinds of issues because of the economy. So I'm not disputing that this year there's nowhere in the budget to get money for a consulting fee.
I don't know that's true. Let us do our work to try to get this thing moving, and just let us go. But many of the issues that were in your note are not clearly Board of Health issues, where you're talking about filling of streams or erosion at the stream. What we'll do is we're going to go up and look and say what is in our range of control. Is the stuff clean? Is it legal fill? So we can look at that, and the other, as we said, we're going to go after the bigger safety issue, and that's what our plan is.
But the reason I put that in there is if you see something that should be brought to the attention of conservation, that's where I would take that. I'm not saying that you should do anything with the wetlands concerns, but if they're dumping fill out in the backstops, that should be brought to the conservation so that they can go out and look and see if there's impact to wetlands that they did not get approval for.
Well, we're gonna have to look and see what we find. I will do. We're gonna go out there and look, and that's why the three of us wanted to be there.
And since it's open to the public this weekend, I may go out and look for the first time myself. So,
You know, that may not be a bad idea if it's open. But what I wanted to do is, Gene, could you, as with the last one, if you could let the police know and also notify the club that they have to be doing this in accordance with the regulations that the governor
Okay.
has. Can you do that?
I will do that.
So at least we can make sure they follow the laws of the state for right now.
right, but nobody will be there for me to complain to on Saturday if I go up there and count more than 50. So it's not going to matter. By the time you guys were notified, it'd be over anyhow. So
I think
But-
that
but I'll
I
go up
think the governor raised that number way up. I think it was at one point, I think he moved it up to 250. I don't know if he backed it back down, but I think when he backed it down, I think it was only down to 100.
oh, okay, well that's something different too. I wasn't aware that they raised it that high. So I heard you talking earlier in the meeting about an outdoor event for 50. So
Yeah, and I think that may in fact not be correct.
okay,
So,
all righty.
okay, Joe, and I don't know if you heard that I don't about our last meeting. I did take what you said seriously. I don't think I wasn't intending to bring it up as a discussion item, and but just to be careful, and I think deciding to reach out for more information is in effect not really a decision, it's a course of action. But we didn't act on it, we stopped. Once you said, you know what, if you were discussing it, you should have put that in as an agenda. And so we didn't act on it, and we redid the whole thing tonight to make sure that it was right out in the open for everybody to know and to hear it.
Right, because especially with this issue where there's lots of lawyers already involved, I didn't want you to get into trouble. I was not asserting a complaint of the open meeting law. I was just saying if it's a gun club related discussion, protect yourself. You should mention on the agenda that you're gonna.
Yeah, and
not
when I heard what you said, I said, you know what? That's a good enough thought that we should respond to it. And we did. And that's why we redid the whole thing tonight.
Yeah, I didn't want the lawyers for the gun club to say that you made a decision and anything that came out of that was an illegal decision.
Right. Right.
I
wasn't complaining. I just
Dick.
wanted to be clear. I wasn't complaining in open meeting. So
Dick, I think we've done enough with this.
I think so too.
Yep.
Okay, guys, are we all done?
Yes.
No, actually, I'm sorry. I sent out a letter regarding 208 Bachelor Street from Richard Evans regarding, I guess they have a buyer for the property, and it's stating that there is an extra bedroom.
Oh, I saw that letter. Herb, it was a Title V system. Do you recall that letter?
No.
It's from a lawyer that said my client is selling a house that has now 4 bedrooms on it. It's a Title V system with for 3 bedrooms. He did talk to me, and I said if the board policy is that if it's a Title V 440 gallon a day system and people want to change a 3-bedroom and add it to a 4th, that the board's policy is we allow that if it was a legal Title V system. And I said, you would have to make that so it works, you'd have to ask, could they do that? And I said, the board would routinely says, yes, you can do that. And that's what he's asking for. Are we ready to do that? Herb,
I did get the address wrong. I believe it was 16 Deerbrook,
Okay.
not the 208 Bachelor Street that I mentioned.
Yes, 16 Deerbrook. You just sent
Yes.
that out.
I sent it out when I received it, so it was sometime last week.
Oh, no, then I didn't just see it. Never mind.
Okay.
but Herb, do you see any reason why we shouldn't do what we've done with everybody else that asked to go from 3 to 4?
Not if it's legal Title V.
And that's what it is, right, Jane? It was a
Yes, yes.
It was a legal Title V system. So we're okay with that.
Okay, they did want a letter in response, so you want me to just write something up
Yeah, say
saying,
that we've received your request to change the number of bedrooms from 3 to 4 because your legal Title V septic system was designed for 440 gallons a day. The board has granted that request.
okay. And then the other thing is the meeting minutes from October 1st.
Herb, I think you and I both reviewed those. Gene, did we?
Yes, you did.
Oh, then I move approval.
I do too.
Okay. Okay, then that's it.
Next meeting, the 27th.
Yes.
Okay, we're
And I
done for
noticed-
tonight. What?
I noticed you sent out the link to it, so we're good to go with that.
Okay.
All right.
Good night,